Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Above the Bar podcast, where each week we belly up to the bar with a new guest, find out what they do, who they are, and what makes them great. So sit back, relax, and enjoy. Alrighty, folks, welcome to another episode of the Above the Bar podcast. It's your host, Sean. If you notice, the background seems a little funky today. We're campsite today, hanging out. We're on vacation, the family and I. We're waiting on our guest, Augie, to jump on here in a moment. He is a United States Marine, also a swing dancer. So spoke to him a little bit ago. Hopefully he'll be jumping on with us just in a moment. But as we know, show goes live at 8. So show goes live at 8. Just got a message from my best friend Ken. He thought it said swingers on tonight, not swing dancers. I probably, Augie's a great dude, but I probably would get more viewers, I imagine, if I had swingers on. Whole nother animal at that point. But yeah, so we're hanging out at the Cape today. Do a little bit of house cleaning. We don't have the board with us today, but as always, you know the deal, sticker and a cause. If you've got something you're supporting, something that you believe in, you've got your own podcast, you've got your own, I don't care if you got a dance club, whatever you got going on, you reach out to us on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, even our email is all the Above the Bar podcast. Send me a message. We'll go ahead and get your stuff out there. I'll tell you where to send the sticker at. And we'll let everybody know what you got going on there so that everybody knows what you're supporting. Again, reach out to us on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. Oh, I love it. Augie's a little confused here on the time. That's all good. So as we go through this, and he'll be joining us here in a little bit. We do have some other things going on. As always with our media, you know how it works with the media pieces here. If you're trying to support something here and your media needs a little bit of an uplift, reach out to Media by Dibs. It's Media by Dibs, DIBS. Reach out to Dibs, and if you mention to him belly up to the bar, he's going to give you a 10% discount on your first order. Also, he's going to give you a free consultation on everything. So make sure you reach out. And at the same time, Jessica Gruber, who introduced me to Augie, and she is phenomenal. She's got her own podcast now, and that's called Pathed, Pathed, and it's a faith-based podcast where she interviews folks who, through whatever has happened in their lives, something that's gone on in their lives that they've been able to use, that because of the way God has helped them out, they've been able to set another path for their life. So she's got a really good one this week. So she's actually interviewing a World War II veteran who who she interviewed. I'm trying to think when it's going to come out. So it'll be out this Friday evening at 8 p.m. Central Time. She's interviewing a gentleman. His name's Don Graves. He's a World War II veteran. He was also a Marine on Iwo Jima. And it's pretty ironic she's getting this done just before the 4th of July. So I think that's a perfect segue into it. So make sure you're checking out her show, and that's Pathed, Pathed. And you might hear a kind of a familiar voice in the opening of the show. Little familiar voice. It's mine. I did her opening for her, so I'll toot my own horn. If you want me to do your opening for your own podcast, you can absolutely reach out to me also. I think that's something I'd like to get into. Also, Nathan just reached out. We had Patty Negri on a little while back, and Patty says we helped her out with her brother-in-law is a veteran having some tough times with the VA. So we reached out and helped him out. So thanks to everybody on the show that was able to reach out and show some support on different ways that we can help them out. So moving forward here, also, I got to give a little shout out to Nate here. We were talking about this. Ravens Nation lost a huge, huge part of that term, play like a Raven. Uh, Tony Siragusa, 55 years old. I was pretty surprised. I didn't realize he's about 10 years older than I am. So Goose passed away. We haven't heard exactly what the cause was. He was a big man. It could have been anything. But Tony Siragusa passed away this past week. So we want to pass our feelings out to the Saragusa family, let them know that all of us here at the Above the Bar podcast are thinking about them, thinking about the family, and Ravens Nation as a whole, I know have already started to come together, doing what they can. So 100% support for them. Some other things that we have coming up here, just spoke to the pod father, and he let us know that he will soon, very, very soon, be back in action. We're going to be doing some stuff together, so we'll hopefully see her back online here real soon. Oh, and here we go. Let's add him to
Hey.
Oh, look at this ruggedly handsome Marine right here.
What's going on, brother?
What's going on? I'm sorry, and I take all the hit. When we do East Coast, West Coast time, I have to start putting up a chart because I screw it up also. So, but we got. Do you have your? Wait a sec, Augie. Are you wearing your Marine Corps tracksuit?
No, it's Camp
Hollywood. Oh, okay. For a second there, I thought you had. It would have been. Do you still have yours?
Yeah, I do actually. I have it back at my place. I've got like a tub with all of my Marine Corps stuff in there.
You have the tub too? I got one that's the same way. Like I went through mine. I guess it was probably about 2 or 3 years ago. I went through mine, and I had camis that were still rolled up with rubber bands around them that didn't even have name tapes on them. I went to the local recruiting command and was like, "Take these. I can't do shit with them."
Yeah.
and just dropped them off. So again, folks, we have Mr. Augie Freeman with us, United States Marine, as you'll probably hear lots of stories. And I don't know if Augie knows it. I was taught this early in my Marine Corps career. Do you know the difference between a sea story and a no shitter?
I can guess.
What okay, I want to hear
because sea story is what, like a fishtail, and then a no shitter's like no bullshit, like this really happened.
100%. I don't have my claps. I give you a clap right now. I don't have all my stuff. My wife's in the background. She's clapping for you. But that's exactly what it is. You have sea stories and you have no shitters. You always knew when a Marine was getting ready to tell you the legit story, because he'd be like, "Look, man, this is a no shitter. This is what happened."
Oh yeah, for sure.
But if he was full of shit, he was like, "Dude, so like we were on deployment. Let me tell you what happened." You're like, "Okay,
yeah,
we know this about to happen." So so Augie, you served from when to when?
I served from so I went to boot camp in March 21st, 2001, and I was supposed to EAS. What is it, like 1 day before, 4 years later?
Right. Yeah.
Or something like that. Oh no! It was March 25th. So I got out 3 months early on a school cut, which put me out Christmas Day, 2004.
You want to know what's really creepy right now? So I was at recruiting school as you were going through boot camp in San Diego.
Oh, you were at the school at the same time?
So I went to at the same time. So fresh face,
CRD?
still wet behind the ears, Augie, and salty ass Sergeant Murphy going, "This is bullshit. I don't know if I can be here." Yeah,
that's
funny,
dude.
That's too funny.
Oh, that's hilarious.
So I wasn't a left coast Marine. Didn't go to boot camp out there. None of that stuff. Just schooling and different things. I always hear the stories, and we're gonna get into some Marine Corps stories. How much did it drive you nuts truly seeing the airplanes taking off and landing?
Oh, That's funny. I think I tuned it out, mainly because I have a twin brother, and he had already gone to MCRD. He told me all about it, all the do's and don'ts. I was prepared when I got there, both physically and mentally, and as far as like I got ahead on all the prac knowledge that you're supposed to have, and so I spent like a good amount of months just preparing for boot camp, and before that I was already getting my run time up. So by the time I got to boot camp, I was a 300 PFTer. I had all my prac knowledge. I knew exactly what to expect from the drill instructors. So and also culturally, like the airplane thing, it's like right next to the airport, so you see all the planes coming and going. But also, I was 21 when I went to boot camp.
Oh no shit! So you were a
Um,
little bit older.
yeah, I was a little bit older. I dropped out of college, so I was ready. I wanted to be there 100%. I knew exactly what I wanted in life, and I had a lot of time to think about it beforehand. And I knew that I wanted to. I knew that I wanted to go to boot camp. I wanted to be a Marine. I wanted to earn the title. Um, and beyond that, I knew I wanted to go into the fleet Marine Force, and I knew that I wanted to go out there and conduct real world missions. And I didn't I didn't want to just like wear the uniform and have the name tapes and look the part. Like I really wanted to get out there and do like the real shit.
So were you an '03 hump a lot?
Yeah, so I this is funny because I I went '03 and got to School of Infantry, and this is probably where a lot of like 0311s are gonna fucking laugh at me. Um, but I got to SOI, and the humps were a lot harder than they were in boot camp. Because in boot camp the humps were easy, relatively speaking. Um, and then so I get to SOI, and we're doing humps, we're doing range runs. I think that the top one we did was around 25 miles, and some of it was like most of the night. And I just remember getting to back to uh, back to the rear, and my feet, like I took off my boots, and they look like fuck like raisins, dude.
Oh, I know
And I
that
had,
feeling.
oh yeah, dude, and I like I had rubbed all these, like there's like practically no skin left on much of my feet. Went to the corpsman, and I was just like, "Hey doc, can you help me with my feet?" And he looked at me, and I kid you not, he was like, "So what's the problem?"
I
Yep.
love it.
And
There's
I
some
looked at
motion
him,
in
and I was
water.
like, "Yeah." I was like, "This guy's serious. He is like, he's no shit telling me to man the fuck up." And I was like,
Wow.
all right, good to go. And it was at that point where I was just like, fuck, man, I need to find a way to be mechanized because not because I can't take it, but because this is going to catch up to me at some point.
Right.
And you know what I mean? And so like just from a longevity standpoint, I was like, okay, what can I do from this point? Because if I go to 0311, that means I'm going to be a rifleman, which means I carry less weight potentially than if I'm an 0351 or 0341, which is mortarman,
Mortarmans.
and certainly as machine gunner 0331, which I was like, fuck that. I am not going to be a machine gunner. I'm I'm 140 pounds soaking wet, and I'm 5'6", and like, and I'm already doing these humps where I feel like I just lack the bone density to be able to handle this on a long-term basis. So two things need to happen. I need to gain weight, and I need to gain strength. So, and I was just thinking,
That's
I
so
have to do
funny.
that anyway. Yeah, and so I was just like, okay, cool. So I saw that there's two MOSs within the O3 field. One of them is uh, Tow Gunner,
LAR.
0352. And then there's 03, I think that one's 0313.
40 something. Oh,
Oh, is
13
it? Okay.
for
No.
the LAR. It's LAR. You're talking
Yeah.
about LAR, aren't you?
Yeah. Yeah. And I forget what Recon is, but that I was weeded out early on the swim qualification for that one. Um, but anyway, so I was like, I put my hat in the ring for 0352 and also for LAR, and I got 0352. And so I was just like, okay, cool. So so when I got to the fleet, we still humped, but we didn't. But we did it as like a matter of good practice. It wasn't like an integral part of what we did. Um, but as a tow gunner, you inevitably had to be like able to do dismounted patrolling, and so that actually came into play in uh, mostly OIF, Operation Iraqi Freedom 2, which was my second deployment, where part of the time I was a tow gunner up in the gun, engaging targets with the tow system,
Oh, no
or
shit.
providing overwatch. Yeah, and the other times I was I was a dismounted rifleman, if you will, even though my designator was 0352, still had to rely on that skill set. I'm not going to say that like I was as skilled as like a full-time 0311, but it was something that I had to do. That was within my. I went to school for it, trained for it, did a lot of training packages where I was a rifleman. So I mean, it's kind of like yes and no. I was 03 hump a lot, but I don't want to like take that badge of honor away from like, the full-time 0311s, the 0331s, the 41s, the guys that humped like the no shit heavy fucking break
Oh,
your
yes.
ass stuff.
I know what you
I
mean.
yeah, and I had a lot of friends that were that obviously. Um, so and I worked certainly with a lot of those guys in OAF 1 and 2, and part of the time I was glad. I was just like, fuck yeah, I'm glad I'm in this Humvee and not like humping all that bullshit over there in the sun and in the sand.
That's such a Marine. And to give a dictionary of all the things that Augie and I are talking about, because this is such a Marine way. When you get too many of us together, we end up doing this where um, we have our own language. MOS is job, military occupational specialty. It's our job. Those designators, if you were to ask somebody in the Army, they're going to tell you, I think they're 84 Bravo, I think is their
Yeah.
infantry. I think that's what it is. And they're going to have a different
11
one in
Bravo.
11 Bravo. Thank you. I knew it was something Bravo. I don't know their
Mm-hmm.
stuff, but and the Navy's going
Right.
to have something else sassy to say because that's the Navy. They'll be very sassy. And then the Air Force will have they're probably in an air conditioned room somewhere. They don't have shit to say. They'll have their own. And when we say hump, what we're referring to is putting a pack on your back that has a pack list to it. Probably
Yep.
weighs about 100 pounds. I'm with Augie. I weighed 127 pounds when I went to boot camp. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I always jokingly said I weighed 127 pounds with a 400-pound mouth. So I
Yeah.
really needed to go to
Nice.
boot camp. And I was so I don't know if you've ever heard. This will be an interesting question for you. So when I went to boot camp, all the infantry guys went to MCT with me. And what would happen is we would all do the first training together, and about week when we finished MCT at 4 weeks. MCT focuses Marine combat training. All Marines are basically trained infantrymen. We all learn the same basic
Right.
skills. The only difference is that school that Augie's talking about, School of Infantry, is an advanced infantry training where you really learn true heavy tactics, how
Mm-hmm.
to cut the pie, formations, different types of things. when we would hit that fourth week and we went off to our job schools, all the School of Infantry guys walked up the hill at Camp Geiger, and well, it's not really a hill; it's up the road. It's all flat. It's North Carolina, but walked up the road
Right.
with all their gear and went to the School of Infantry for another
Mm-hmm.
8 weeks, I think it was. And then if you were LAR, you had to go to the left coast because that's where LAR school is, and everybody
Uh-huh.
else, went to whatever unit they were going to. I don't know
Right.
if you knew that's how it used.
Yeah.
That's how it was prior.
Yeah. Wow. I didn't know that. Yeah. No, that definitely changed. I'm not sure when, but
We
definitely.
had no females. Also,
Uh,
we had no females graduated from
yes.
that. When I went to boot camp, we did 11 weeks. Females did 13 weeks of boot camp, and as soon as their boot camp was over with, they did their 10 days of leave and went right to their job school. And they ran a mile and a half when I joined the Marine Corps.
Wow.
Tell me
Yeah.
how
Lots
different that shit
changed.
is.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, a
So
lot's changed since I left too. So, I mean, I think, yeah. Now I think the recruit training in San Diego is now fully integrated, both male and female. And I do believe they actually train with each other now. They have separate barracks and living
they have females
quarters.
out that way now.
Uh,
Oh, that's
they
weird.
I think they do. Yeah. Um, I think they introduced that this year actually. And then I know now that I believe that you can be an infantryman if you're female now. You can actually go combat arms where you didn't used to be able to do that before.
It's so different. We look. The Marine Corps is always the
Mhm.
last to get it done. Most people don't know that we were the last branch to accept a drug test in boot camp because the Marine Corps' mentality was if you were high the day prior, we don't give a shit. We'll get it out of your system in the
Right.
next 30 days. Don't worry about it. So why the hell are we wasting money on drug tests? That was their mentality, which really, if you think about it, if you smoke pot,
There's some
okay.
logic. Yeah.
Why do I care if you get to boot camp and it's in your system? By the time boot camp's over with, the shit'll be out. That was their mentality.
No,
So
for sure.
now now I want to get more into your career in the Marine Corps because I saw, we posted some pictures of this. I mean, you had I don't know, I guess the best way to put it is you got the 50-50 award. Half of the guys got it and go, look what I got. And the other half said, shit, I ducked.
Oh,
Uh, you got the
right.
50-50 award. We'll talk about
Yeah,
that, but
yeah.
I'm curious.
It's
I'm
funny.
curious. What came first for you? Was it the swing dancing, or was it the Marine Corps?
The Marine Corps. Yeah, so I started dancing in 2003 when I came back from Operation Iraqi Freedom.
Was it a
Yeah.
therapeutic thing? Like, how did you get into that? Like, that's
I
even
think
that's even more wild because like I couldn't
yeah.
imagine walking back into an infantry barracks and being like, "Excuse me, guys, I need to go ahead and get my suspenders and high waisted pants and tap shoes. I'm gonna go ahead and go fucking dance
Right.
at the Charleston right now." Like, I can't imagine having that
Totally.
conversation.
It was
But at the
weird
same
at
time,
first, dude. But
yeah. So tell
but
me
the
how that.
fellas,
I want to know how that
they were
happened.
yeah.
What did I
So
missed it? What?
okay. So I grew up in El Paso, Texas, and it in some ways it's Texas, in some ways it's New Mexico. Um, and in the ways that it's Texas is that it the two step is very popular there.
Okay.
And Western bars, right? And not that I was like ever crazy into country music, but but I enjoyed it with my friends and certainly going out and believe it or not, dude, when I was in the Marine Corps, I didn't drink, so I liked going out and hanging out with a lot of my old high school friends when I would come home, and so I went one night and they had taught me like a few steps here and there. And then I ran into this girl um, that I thought was really pretty, and started talking to her. And I was like, "Hey, do you want to dance?" And she was like, "Sure." So we went out there, and she was a lot better than me. And I was like, wow, so how did you get into this like country dancing? And she was like, well, I'm part of the ballroom club at New Mexico State University. And
No shit.
and I was like, that's cool. Like, why ballroom? Like, how'd you fall into that? And she was like, well, I was into swing dancing first, and my brother and I used to do that. And then we found the ballroom dancing. And I was like, whoa, swing dancing. I don't, I don't think I would want to do ballroom dancing, but swing dancing. I remember watching like the movie Swingers, and I remember seeing like the Gap commercial, and I remember watching like uh, The Mask, and I was like, that. It seems kind of like wacky, but I think I would want to like at least try that. So I went back to 29 Palms, started looking for it, looked left and right, finally found this dude who was also a Marine, and he was living in the barracks because he was working at the communications school, and he was like, yeah, dude, I'm teaching these classes, and so I stopped by, and he was like, hey, it seems like you're having a lot of fun. Why don't you come out with me and my partner this weekend? We're going to LA. We're going to go check out a competition. And I was like, yeah, okay. So I went there, and that night it was the 2003 California Balboa Championship run by Peter Loggins. So I ran into that crowd
Like the singer Peter
by
Loggins?
accident.
Like the singer Peter Loggins.
No. The dance teacher and organizer Peter Loggins. So I think
I'm
he
thinking
lives
like the
in New
singer Peter
Orleans
Loggins.
now. Yeah, I know. I think he's actually related to him. Actually, I think he is. But it's funny because that night I was watching. It was at this place called Memories in Whittier, California, and I saw all these people dancing to this really fast music, and the guys were like doing the splits. They're like throwing the girls up in the air. They're like throwing the girls' hand behind their back, and then the girls are spinning all these times in the music's. And I was just like, holy shit, like if it takes me the rest of my life, I feel like I want to learn how to do that. And so I was addicted. And I would like drive out every single weekend to take classes. I met this girl named Rusty Frank, and she was teaching classes. And then pretty soon I found this place called Atomic Ballroom, and I was taking lessons. I was taking lessons anywhere and everywhere that I possibly could. And then I learned about workshops and traveling for dancing. And I was like, dude, sign me up for that. And then I had to go back to Iraq in the middle of all of that. And I think it was kind of a therapy thing for me. Maybe not at first. I was like, this is just super cool. There are all kinds of cool people. I love the music. I love the way everybody's dressing. There's a band up there, and they sound really, really cool. And I like the way the girls are dressed up in vintage. Like, because this is 2003, everybody's still wearing vintage clothes when they go out. So
awesome,
it was
man.
totally different now. Yeah, it was great. And then
Now, what's
so
different
fast
now than
forward.
then? Like, what's the difference now and then?
Well, besides the fact that there's a lot more opportunity to learn now. There's a lot more events nationwide and worldwide. I know that like the pandemic put like a kind of a hiatus on much of that, but there's also like media wise, you can watch dancing on YouTube, whereas back then you had to have like videotapes and stuff. And I remember taking a camcorder to out dancing and to different events, and I would like shoot myself doing the move right after the class, so I would have those notes. Wow. And now like they have recaps and stuff like that. There's like instructor demos where I would VHS record that for myself, so that I would have it and look at it and be able to steal moves. And versus today, like there's just so much free content now online on YouTube and everywhere else that that you didn't have. And also like the vintage clips, you had to find the vintage clips back then. And you like had to trade people. And I was really lucky because this guy, Nick Williams, he was already putting together this videotape that that he that he was helping people get, and it was called Original Jitterbugs. And he put like footage from like Bobby McGee's to like Groovy Movie and Hell's a Poppin', like all the famous clips that everybody takes for granted now. Like they were hard to get back then.
Really?
And I think that's probably the big difference right there. And there's also a lot less traveling for dancing. There was like Harangue Dance Camp, and I think there was Camp Hollywood, Swing Camp Catalina. But really, there was only like a handful of things that you could do nationwide and globally. But by the time I got out, there is now a lot more events. There was Camp Jitterbug. There was, what else?
So
there were,
I'm curious.
there was London Balboa Festival.
Wow. So there's really nowadays, if you're into that, there's a whole market. But so 2003, you're learning the swing dance. You, like you said, you didn't realize it was as therapeutic as it was. But now we've got to go back to OIF again. So we're headed back. Now, how does that all? You know, I mean, I can't imagine you're, like you said, two-step Charleston. You're not swinging your A gunner around. You know, like, hey, let me show.
Yeah.
Hey, look at this. You know, I am curious though. Yeah. What was the reaction? Because I know myself as a gunnery sergeant, if one of my Marines would have came to me, I probably would have been like, "That's some cool shit. Don't let it interfere with work." But you know, field day still on Thursday. What was some of the reaction you were getting from your command and from? Because I think a lot of people think of the Marine Corps and they don't realize we're pretty much a bunch of nerds and geeks that like to work out and you know have no problem with throwing hands. Like we're the biggest bunch of geeks you're ever going to meet. We're into the weirdest shit. That's why we joined the Marine Corps.
Totally.
What was the reaction you were getting from your command?
So basically, I mostly kept it a secret. And a lot of people don't know this about me. But when I was in the Marines, I was mostly secretive. I mostly kept to myself. I had like a few really close friends, but for the most part, I tried not to get too personal with people. I kept my personal life very guarded.
Why?
And I ask myself that question all the time. I think it was because I was a really sensitive kid, very artsy, and I think that if I didn't share too much with people, they wouldn't know. Like for example, I played high school basketball, and so I could play a mean pickup game of basketball. And the guys in my platoon did not know that. So I remember this this first time we were playing, I was the last one picked. And I was like, okay, all right, it's because I'm short.
5'6", 140 pounds. 5'6", 140 pounds.
Yeah.
Muggsy Bogues. Spud Webb.
Yeah. But I kid you not, like I schooled everybody in the platoon. Like I took them to school. It was embarrassing, dude. I embarrassed every single last one of them. And then later on, I remember we played again, maybe like 6 months or a year later, and they started picking teams again. And this one dude in my platoon, like they were about to pick somebody else. This one guy, Saucier, he was like, no, pick Freeman. And he's like, Freeman? He's like, yeah, dude. Pick Freeman. And he was like, okay. And then, of course, but I think part of it was because at the time I just sucked at dancing. I loved it, but I was just terrible at it. I was brand new at it, and and I think I'm a little more secure in myself now um, than I was at the time. Like when I was in the Marines, I was still pretty young. I was an insecure kid. Even though I'm in my like early 20s, I'm still like discovering who I am. And that factors into like this identity that you're crafting for yourself. I wanted to think of myself as a warrior. I wanted to think of myself as professional. And I think at the time, I knew what my shortcomings were in every regard, and I didn't want to get too personal because I didn't want people to know in what ways I was insecure and in what ways I was, in my own mind at least, inadequate. And it's interesting because that's something I kind of regret now, because I look back on like a lot of the things that happened in everyday life and also in combat, where a lot of those guys could have been somebody that I could relate to more. Um, because I remember getting out, and then years later, um, one of my one of the guys that was in the platoon with, I ran into him because he lives out here as a police officer in Long Beach, and he was like, "Hey, dude," and he calls me Augie now, which is funny because of course it's Freeman when
You're right,
you're
absolutely.
in.
I get guys that still call me Gunny. I'm like, I
Yeah, I'll
appreciate it, but
bet.
fuck, I ain't put a Gunny in a
Yeah.
minute.
And he's like, remember this time that this happened? And I was like, yeah, of course I remember that. And he was like, were you scared? And I was like, fuck yeah, I was scared, dude. I was terrified. And he was just like, me too. And you know what's it meant a lot to hear him say that,
Now, was
because
this somebody
I
that you
didn't know, like,
looked to, like,
yeah, I looked up to him. He was a guy that I thought was a tough guy, a professional tough guy. And me, I'm just like some skinny kid from El Paso, and I'm just trying to measure up every day. Like that's that's where I was in my mind. And like I could run a 300 PFT, I could do 20 pull-ups, I could do all the physical stuff that you would ask me to do. I had a good shooting score, but in my mind, I was always like, well, am I going to measure up when I have to do my job? Like that was my mindset. I was like, I I wanted to prove myself, but I wanted to also be like, I just want to be somebody that everybody can rely on, and I was scared that I wouldn't be. You know
oh,
what I
oh
mean?
yeah, I gotta ask you I gotta ask you a question. So we're gonna make a left turn for a minute, and I want to we'll
Sure.
get back to it and everything, but I gotta ask you, um, when now that you're, you saw combat, you've done what joined the Marine Corps to do. You know,
Yeah.
we look at the Constitution and we say that oath in a different way, and it carries a different weight to us. I don't care what, even when we get annoyed by the people in charge. Um,
Sure. Yeah.
but and just so everyone knows this, listen to this, 90% of the Marines I know don't like either side of the fence. We think they're both a bunch of idiots because we're the ones that have to actually go do what the fuck they ask us to do. And we go,
Right.
really? This is stupid. Um, Getting out after having that brotherhood, having that camaraderie, and every day feeling like I need to make sure I measure up. Now
Hmm.
that you're dealing with people who, say this in the nicest way I can, who have never dealt with that measuring stick, have never had someone say to them, measure yourself against these legends, Chesty
Right.
Puller, John
Hmm.
A. Lejeune,
Uh-huh.
um, Carlos
John
Hathcock,
Hathaway. Yeah. People that are
Gunnery
heroes.
Sergeant
Yeah.
Baslone, that they've never had to measure themselves against anyone other than Susie or Johnny from high school or college or a cousin. That to the rest of us mean absolutely nobody.
Right.
What has that been like dealing with civilians? Because you know what it means to go hard. You know
Uh-huh.
what it means to take that next step and be that guy.
Yeah.
What has been, and I think, and the reason I'm asking this is because I think this is something for all of us as Marines and service members in general that we struggle with. I still struggle with it today, 8 years out from retirement. You know,
Sure.
July 31st will be 8 years since I retired, and I still
Congrats.
struggle with it today. Thanks, bro. But I
Yeah.
still struggle with it today to be like, you mother, and then
Yeah.
so how have you gotten beyond that? Because you have a pretty successful career so far, as I
Yeah.
understand from Jessica.
Yeah. It's going quite well. Yeah, I'm very grateful for that. Um, so you're asking how I deal with the ignorance that people have around what it means to serve, and what it means to sacrifice. Um,
And to take those further steps in your life.
right, for sure. Okay. Well, okay. So first of all, I think a big part of that is something you can relate to is one, looking back on that experience and understanding it. Not just who I was then and who I am now, but what I learned from that and where I want to go moving forward in life, right? But I also have had to. I don't see it anymore as my mission to correct people. Um, I do see it as my mission to educate people and if possible enlighten them, from my perspective at least. Um, and something I always tell them is that my experience doesn't represent everyone else's. There are feelings that I have about it that are unique to who I am, and there are perspectives that are my own. And I don't want to tell people what to think. I feel like when I got away from the notion that I need to uh, set people straight on that, I think it released a lot for me. Um, and so now what I do is, for those people who are interested, and not everyone is interested in that, and that's another thing that I've had to accept is like, even though I feel like um, I gave a lot, I have to be okay with other people not seeing the value in that. Even though I know that what a lot of my brothers and in arms, the men and women who have sacrificed for this country, that is substantial. But there are always idiots out there, and there are always,
That's the
um,
only term you can use, brother. That's the only
sure,
term you can use.
and whether it's an idiot permanently or just an idiot now, you know what I mean? Because some people grow up, and I think that's another thing that I tell myself is like, you know, uh, people change, and I do my best to give them grace on that. So just as I've changed a lot myself, I went through some really dark times after I got out, where I grappled with a lot of stuff, and I wasn't always my best self either during that time, or even now sometimes I'm not the Augie that I could be, but I just always try to be a better version of myself every single day. And I think the Marine Corps taught me that, dude. I really do. You're talking about like measuring up to people that are, I mean, they've gone
Legends.
down in the history books for their heroism, and it's incredible.
It's. I mean, most people won't know those names that we throw out there. I
Hmm.
mean, back in the day, you used to be able to knock on Chesty Puller's door in
Yeah.
DC, and his wife would let you in, and he would sit and tell you stories.
Hmm.
And folks, if you're listening to us talk about that, you don't know who that man is. take a moment, go look him up.
Yeah.
He's the guy who said things like, "Sir, we're completely surrounded by the Chinese, and if you didn't know it, we fought the Chinese in North Korea, folks. We've already fought their military." And they said, "Hey, we're surrounded by the Chinese. What should we do?" And he went, "Well, that solves one problem. We know where the enemy is." He
Yeah.
made it. He made it real
We
clear.
can attack in
Like,
any direction.
yeah, that was it. We can tack in any direction. That was it. I mean,
Yep.
Augie, I'm just hearing your story, brother, and we're gonna get more into swing dance, but brother,
Sure.
you're the fabric of what we do, why we do what we do. You know,
Thank
doing
you.
20 years, that's great, great. You know, great on me. But you
Same.
guys that do the four no more, move on. You guys, you know, eat the apple, fuck the core. We've all said it. You know,
I've heard
but
that one.
you guys really are more of the heart and soul to the Marine Corps, because I used to have a colonel that said this all the time: do your 4 years, make the rank of corporal, and I'll drive you to the front gate and let you off. He used to say that all the time because
Totally.
that's what his goal was. And I hope everybody that hears this finds you and sends you a thank you for what you did, because that's what we really need, is
Totally.
guys like you.
Oh,
And
thank
I
you.
thank you for it, brother. I mean, I one Marine to another, I thank you for it, man. I really truly do.
Well,
Um,
I will say this, and I really appreciate that. I owe a lot to the Marine Corps. I do. Um, I feel like I gave a lot, but I feel like a lot was given in return. And I feel like it's really difficult when people know what I've been through and know that I was wounded in combat, and they make certain types of assumptions that always go in the direction of the negative.
what do you
And
mean?
well, like, oh, that person is, that person's traumatized, and or that person, all the, that kind of stuff. And it's like,
Yes, yes.
that you can get traumatized by having a bad childhood. Um, and I know that's something different, or but you can get traumatized by being in a car accident, but it doesn't mean you don't get in the car. You know what I mean? And so, but the Marine Corps, man, it gave me a lot. It taught me a lot about life. It gave me a lot of skill sets, to be well equipped to handle the rest of my life and be successful and be self-disciplined, be self-driven, always seek self-improvement, um, always seek mentorship from people who came before you, to value those who came before you because you have a lot to learn from them. I feel like there's a lot of young people today that could really, really benefit from those types of lessons. And
You bring up a great one. The mentorship program, the mentoring. I
mhm.
feel like personally, I've ran into challenges on the civilian sector where you reach out to people like, "Hey, I'd really like to learn more about what you do, or to mentor with you," and they're like,
Huh?
"Why? Why do you want?"
Automatically distrusting.
Right, like who's this asshole? I'm not telling you what I know. You ain't taking my job, bitch. And it's like,
Right,
no,
right.
man, I want to get better at what I'm doing, and you've done this for a lot of years, you know. And I think we're probably one of the few groups, or at least service members in general. If I'm 45, what are you, probably 37, 38?
I just turned 43 this year,
Oh
like
God, so you're
last.
closer to my age than I realized.
Yeah.
So, but I'll reach out to a guy who's 35. If you've been
Hmm.
doing the industry longer than I have no
Hmm.
problem in you telling me what to do. I think that's a Marine Corps thing. Like, your age is irrelevant to me. How long have you been doing the work?
Right. Totally. Yeah. And how skilled are you?
Right.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
I
Technically
know
and
we're
tactically proficient.
that's it. There it is. So I want to get back to the swing. I know we're getting into a little deeper in the Marine Corps stuff, and look, I
Sure.
think guys like Augie and you'll have to come on. We'll have to remember when we do our birthday show. You have to come on for the birthday show, because we
Cool.
did it this
Yeah.
past year with a bunch of other recruiters that I was on recruiting with. Some of us retired, some of us not. One guy, one of my buddies that is the one that you have to be like, you will speak when I allow you to speak because you're not getting me banned from everything on the planet. He is that, you know, that Marine
Oh
that
yeah, okay.
like the first time I met him, we were in a setting. All the other Marines are there. He's getting ready to give a class, and he said something that when it was done, I looked back at my CO and I looked at him. I had only been in the command about a month. He was the RI, I was the ARI, assistant recruiter instructor. He was the recruiter instructor. I looked back at my CO and then I looked at him and I went, my career's over. You just said some shit that's going to cost me my career unless I go tell somebody.
Right.
And like it was at that level. And everybody was like, no, you're good. You're good. You're okay. I'm like, that's why I was like,
Oof.
and then our sergeant major talked, and we had that sergeant major that couldn't. You and I will talk afterwards. So
Sure.
I want to get back to the sweat. We'll tell Marine Corps. We'll tell no shitters and sea stories afterwards. But
Awesome.
so you're headed off to deployment. Now
Mhm.
this is deployment, and I'll explain it my way. So I always have referred to the Purple Heart as the 50-50 award.
Yeah. Could have gone either
When
way.
you're right, could go either way, and young Marines just coming in are like, "That's a Purple Heart. You're a fucking warrior." And then guys that once you meet some folks that have a Purple Heart, they're like, "Fuck this thing. You can have it."
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's the 50-50.
Yeah, dude, it's really interesting. I remember this is probably my last week in the Marine Corps, and there was this sergeant major that was retiring, and we went to his ceremony. We're standing in the queue, getting ready to march out on the the parade deck, and I was wearing my ribbons and badges, and this one junior Marine who's like he was a private. I think he was like fresh into the battalion, and he was like, um, he was like, I kid you not, he was like, "Hey, Corporal, what's that purple one?"
Hey, Corporal,
And
what's that purple ribbon you got on your chest there? I've
yeah,
never seen that one.
and these guys next to me, they just looked at him and they were like, "That's the Purple Heart, you idiot!" And he's like, "Oh,
Oh, my bad. Sorry about that, Corporal.
yeah." But you know, I speak about that, you know, that one medal on my chest in a very humble way, because you don't earn it.
No,
It's not a medal that you earn, and it's not for valor, um, although it can be in conjunction with actions um, that are related to combat valor. But um, there are many out there who are awarded the Purple Heart who don't live to wear it, and that's the thing that I am very humbled by. And to top that off, for me personally, it was, it's like Forrest Gump, like getting shot in the ass. It's literally like $1 million wound. You
but it's
know?
like you weren't shot in the ass, were you, Augie?
No, I wasn't. I was not. I was wounded by an improvised explosive device, where I took shrapnel in my shoulder and all across my back, um, and got banged up pretty good by that. But I went back out like 3 days later. So
General programming.
yeah, and so I'm just like uh, I have a friend. I think he has 2 Purple Hearts. Um, again, $1 million wounds, and then I have friends who have the Purple Heart that are dead, and it's that's how it is. And so it's I think it's something that I wear and I have with me, that I have great humility for, and I'm just grateful for not only for the sacrifices that those who have it and are no longer with us or could not see their families again, But I'm just enormously humbled by that.
Brother, Marine to Marine. I wish we weren't on the opposite coast because you get a hug right now.
Thanks, man.
As only Marines can understand what that means.
Yeah.
Only Marines would hug each other and be like, "No gay," hit
Yeah.
them with that. But I get exactly what you're saying,
Yeah.
and it means a lot. And I don't want to shift from such a heavy subject to back to,
Right. We're
but
going back to dancing.
but
Sorry.
but I want to kind of tie it in together and kind of say, you're over there, you're dealing with these things.
Hmm.
Was there ever a time where you were like, "Hey, I'm back behind some Connex boxes. I'm practicing. I'm doing this just to get your mind off of where you were, and what was going on."
Sure. Yes and no. So this is interesting. I actually ran into a fellow swing dancer while I was over there. This medical corpsman by the name of Heather Cunoff, and she was a lieutenant at the time, I think, or a lieutenant commander or something like that.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah, she was an officer. She was obviously higher rank than me. And she was at the battalion aid station, maybe as a doctor. And I had one chance, maybe two, where I barely knew how to swing dance, but we're the only ones there, and we taught a class.
Oh,
And
no shit.
yeah, yep, I got a picture of that actually. I can send it to you.
Please do. That would be awesome. I'll post it on the show.
No, but other than that, I was in a very specific mindset when I was over there, and I was. It's really hard to describe because maybe I needed to go that far, and maybe I didn't. But again, I was young, and even though I'd already been on one combat tour, I was still actually relatively inexperienced. And so I I had I had it in my mind that I needed to focus 100% on my time there, and I uh, I didn't like. There were times where I would listen to music or read a book or maybe watch like a DVD or something like that. But I was mainly focused. Like I had a billet that I was filling. So on top of going on missions, I had to take care of the platoon's gear. I was what they call SL3 chief, um, and that's like kind of a logistical thing. Um, and and I was trying to stay on top of my fitness while I was over there, and so there was downtime, but I was pretty serious when I was there, and I felt like I needed to be because Fallujah at that time was a pretty scary place.
Oh yeah.
Um,
What year are we talking right now? We're talking about 04 or 05.
04, yeah,
So
yep,
that's really, I mean, we're dug in. Now that's not the first Fallujah,
that was
but
I
that's
was first.
whole. Oh,
Yeah,
that was first Fallujah.
yeah, I was first. I was there through first Fallujah, and then all the way up until right before the second started. And actually, it was at a point where they asked me, uh, they were asking for volunteers to stay back to go on Operation Phantom Fury, and I had uh, already been wounded. I already had been there for a while, and I saw things were heating up. A lot of people um, were in the ground by that point, and I was just like, I just had this gut feeling that if I went back into that city, I wasn't coming. I either wasn't coming back the same person, or I wasn't coming back at all. And so I made this decision like, okay, well, Augie, if you're going home, then you're going out. You're getting out. And that was the decision that I made.
Bro, folks, I can't. I personally can't explain to you First Fallujah. Augie may have an analogy for it. All I can tell you is go read a book.
Yeah.
I've known. God, I wish I could remember his name. You would know him because he was a
Gunny Popovich?
captain. No, he was a captain that
Oh,
worked with me. He would have been. He was
oh.
a second lieutenant, maybe a first lieutenant in there. He was
Mm,
about 6'50", real tall, lanky guy that
mm.
was there and he was one of these guys that kept going back in. Real
Yeah.
tall, skinny
Yep.
lieutenant that I knew him as a captain. He was our OSO officer, selection officer. Um,
Hmm.
so, I mean, uh, I get it.
Yeah.
Marine. I know I keep saying Marine to Marine, but I get it. I understand exactly what you're saying.
Yeah, and from his perspective, I've been there too, and that's why I volunteered for a second tour. It's really difficult to unplug from that. When you come back, you bring all of that back with you.
How did
And
you unpack it? What was that like for you to unpack that? You know, and that's the only way I understand it. Like
sure,
thinking about like a sea bag, dragging that sea bag back and unpacking that. What was that like for you?
in some ways, it was a very lonely experience, um, and uh, and it was also a very long experience, and quite possibly I'm still doing that. Um, because those experiences that you have in uh, like that are very profound, and they're very uh, when you tell people about stuff like this, it's like, they've seen movies and they've read a book or they've heard someone talk about it, and to talk about it and to live through it are two totally different things. um, there are things, there are realizations that I came to years after that experience happened, that when you say it, you're like, yeah, of course. But when you're going through it, there are times where you're just like, I can't believe I just saw that.
Like it just doesn't register at the
Yeah.
time.
Uh-huh. Yeah. And then there's the complexity of it, the ways that you change through that experience, the realizations that you have about yourself, that you are no better than anyone else, that you are the best and the worst that humanity has to offer. And these are ways that I don't judge people who make terrible mistakes anymore. Um, I'm not the saying that I made mistakes. Everybody does, but there are dark places that I went in my mind where it was difficult to come out of that. And so it's just, the process has been, one, I talk about it. I have a twin brother. And he's a combat veteran, also was a Marine. Um, and we talk about some of those things. Uh, I know that if I'm feeling like there's no one else I can reach out to, because I'm feeling certain something, I can reach out to him. There are tons of veterans out there who know. Now I understand. They know, not exactly what you've been through, but they can identify. Um, and I in the end, I think that I had to forgive myself for a lot of things that can happen, where you're like, you know, I should have done this and I should have done that, um, or like, how could I let myself feel this way or think these certain types of thoughts, um, and um, and at the end of it, like, and this is something that Marine Corps teaches you really, really well. you can't dwell on that stuff too long. You can reflect on it, but you have to put your best foot forward after that. And it's kind of like when you're on a hump, that those long road marches that your feet hurt, you're tired, you're chafed in all kinds of places you didn't even know existed. And
chafing in ways that you never knew you could.
yeah, and you just want to stop. And but you have to keep going, and you have to push through the pain, and you have to get to that light at the end of the tunnel. And in some ways, that life is the hump. You just have to keep going, and you have to be tough, and you have to take the good with the bad, and you have to and then you have to be there for people when they're going through the same thing.
That was what I was going to ask you is for yourself, what do you have you, I know I feel like I've experienced it a couple times, but have you given that advice, or do you have advice for other Marines that are dealing with these things, or what would you tell them, as like, hey, this is how I got through it. It's not going to be your way. It's not your process. But
Yeah.
what are some of the things that you've told to other Marines? Or even have you been in that situation?
Yeah, no, I have. I have. Yeah, no, you're right. It's different for everybody. But I think the main thing that I just try to convey is just like, dude, you're gonna get past this. You're gonna get through it. Like that, what you experienced is profound, and most people cannot relate to you, and that is how it's gonna stay. But it doesn't mean you're alone, and it doesn't mean that 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 what you experienced is something that it doesn't have to destroy you. And in fact, if you keep pushing past this, you keep going, and you rely on others to help you out, don't be afraid to ask for help. I think that's like the biggest thing I keep telling veterans. Dude, go out and get your benefits. Don't be ashamed of it.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
And that I went through that too. Like I went out and I was just like, no, what I went through was nothing compared to like World War II or Vietnam vets, or, oh no, like, it's fine. I don't need to like go to the VA and
I
do
got this shit, dude. Don't
Yeah.
worry about it. I mean,
Yeah.
I ain't that guy. I ain't missing this, or I ain't missing that. I got this shit. Don't worry about it,
Yeah,
man.
totally.
I ain't no punk. I ain't no punk. I got this. Oh yeah. Yep. 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 Yep.
I've heard
Folks, if you're still with us right at this moment, folks, you just got two Marines just talking some shit right at this point. I'm fireside at this moment. I got a cup with some whiskey in it, and we're just fucking marining it up at this point. Thank you for still hanging with us.
Damn right.
You might hear some shit here in a moment where you're like, what the fuck is wrong with these two guys? But
Yeah. No, it's great though, because I think that is the point, is like, whether you were a warrior or not, and to whatever degree you were or were not, we all go through some really tough things in life, man. Like, and sometimes you just got to feel it, and you got to be like, that happened, and I can't change that. And there are aspects about myself that I can change, and there are aspects about myself that I shouldn't change. And I think understanding that is very key to finding meaning and happiness in life. And I think that whether you were a Marine in the Army, or whether you weren't, you've just been a civilian your whole life, you've enjoyed the liberties that people have afforded to you, those things still apply.
100%, brother. I mean, the things that you experience, they're yours.
Mm-hmm.
You get full ownership of them.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of our brothers and sisters, it's tough because you lucked out having a brother who went through it, that you already had a relationship. you're a solitary person, but you have somebody to reach out to. I'm going to say it now, um, and I don't want to. We recently lost. We had a guest who had an organization called 22 a Day Vet Lives Matter.
Yeah, I know. I'm aware of that one. Yep.
And he took his life. The man who led that organization and
Wow.
was hiding
Oh God,
he was
dude.
hiding his substance abuse. He was hiding what was going on. His name was Chris. And he was a guest on the show. Good dude. And he was hiding that
Oh man.
because he thought he had to carry that weight on his own.
Yep.
So listen to two service members who I did not go through, and I make it very clear. I did not go through what Augie went through. I always jokingly say my insurgents were parents. I spent 12 of my I spent 12 of my 20 years on recruiting duty, and I had to explain to people when they were like, "My kid's gonna die in combat." I'm still here. You know, I'm not dead. At least I think I am. But our experiences are very different.
Mm-hmm.
But service members to service members, and I think Augie will say this. My best friend Ken is the one watching us right now. He's another Marine. He gave this a thumbs up. Reaching out to other service members, even if we didn't go through what you went through, I promise you, we will listen.
Yeah, for sure.
We have that like innate ability to just sit and listen to each other go through this process.
Totally.
And it's a process.
Yeah, and I'll let me tell you a quick story. And
Please.
I think this can relate to everybody because there's a surprising aspect of this that well, I'll just tell you what the lesson learned from that was after I tell you is so I was going to group therapy sessions at the VA in Long Beach for a while, and it was mostly Vietnam guys, but it was some Korean War vets, and it was some World War II, and
Wow.
yeah, and then at some point there were like a few Afghanistan and Iraq vets that were starting to trickle in at some point. Anyway, I found this letter that I wrote to my mom that I never sent, and I was just kind of describing what transition looked like at the end of a deployment, and I was talking about how you know it was kind of out with the old, in with the new. We saw these new guys coming in. You could tell who they were because their weapons were super clean and their uniforms were like they didn't have holes in them. They didn't have like any like patches or like there was like no wear and tear on their equipment or their uniforms. Everything was brand new, and and at the same time, I'm still going on missions, and people are still dying. And we're about to leave, and like how horribly that weighed on my heart to see these guys that were so close to going home. And I don't know what I was expecting. I shared that letter. There was a guy who's a chaplain in that group, and he read it out loud, and there was like a long silence after he read it. And before that, I'm thinking, I don't know if I should share this or not, because, you know, like I was in Iraq. That's not Vietnam, or it's not, you know, like Korea. Like these guys are the real warriors. This is like they went through something way crazier. And after the long silence, one of the guys said, "Man, I feel like I could have written that when I was in Vietnam."
No shit.
Yeah, and then this other guy, he was like, "Yeah, I feel like I could have written that when I was fighting the Nazis in Europe."
Wow.
And I was like, that's when it clicked. That's when I had this realization that you may not know it, And you may not think it, but there are people out there who get you. You're not alone. And you don't have to be alone. And I think that was a real breakthrough for me, understanding that there is a good path to healing. And and I think that holds true for anybody, whether you're like a burn victim or a rape victim, or if you are if you were in a really bad car accident, or if you held your child in your arms as they took their last breath. There are people out there who get your trauma, and
That's
so
it. They get it. They get it.
yeah, they get it. They get it. You just have to find them.
Augie, brother, I promise you, Marine to Marine, we'll find each other because that's what we fucking do.
Totally.
Doesn't sound like you're a drinker. I still am.
No, I am. We're just gonna go. We're just gonna go work out soon. But I'll show you what I have.
Oh, look at you, Tangeray and Plantation. I don't know that one.
Yeah,
that's a big dude. That's a handle of Plantation of Tangeray. Holy shit!
So, dude, I'm into cocktailing, dude. I love cocktailing, and so I buy things in bulk.
We'll talk about it. Like so right now, and I'm so this is new. Oh God, I'm gonna spin the bottle. Holy shit! Spin the bottle, not in that way.
Ooh,
so this is New Scotland Spirits. It's here in New York, but they're getting ready to put out a and Jesse will kick my ass because I can't remember it. It's a fucking Army MOS. Who gives a shit? It's the Army. I don't worry about that. God, fucking remember,
Army
aren't
brothers.
ready for Marines.
Army dog
aren't
brothers.
ready for Marines. Aren't ready for Marines yet. But God. Oh God, they all want to be Rangers. Just go join the Marine Corps. Be a fucking Marine. But
just do it, man. Just do it.
Just fucking join the Marine Corps. But my buddy Jesse, he's one of the owners. He was an Army officer.
Oh.
The first time he was on the show, I didn't realize it. He's like, "Yeah, I just got done doing a jump, blah blah blah, and landed." I'm like, he's like, "Yeah, I've got my soldiers." I'm like, "Are you an O? You're an O, aren't you?" He's like, "Yeah, why?" But they're getting ready to come out with a for their version of a Corpsman Army Medic, a White Dog whiskey that's
nice.
all about. And it's all just purely for them. The name of it is whatever the nomenclature, but I only bring that up because we all cross those lines. We cross those lines, and Marine to Marine. We'll figure out when you're either I'm on the left coast or you're on the right coast. We'll share a drink together, brother, because this is how we relate to each other and how we get through these things. And I hope some other service members hear what you're saying. You're not alone, no matter how much you feel that way.
Yeah.
And I promise you, go join a Facebook group. This happened to me. And I'm pleased. I hope it doesn't sound like I'm taking anything away from what you're saying, but this happened to me. I still belong to some of my old units Facebook groups, and
nice.
Another Marine with 461, one of the avionics, where I was the avionics technician. I don't know who this guy was from Adam. Posted a thing that said, "I'm in trouble. I need to talk to somebody."
Damn.
I said, "What's your phone number?" The guy posted his phone number. I called him right up. We talked for like 20 minutes, maybe 30 at the most. I'll be honest with you, I couldn't tell you the guy's name. I could probably go back and find the post. But he posted it. We talked. He was like, "Hey," he's like, "Sean, I appreciate you talking to me. They're finally here to take me in for some for some like inpatient counseling."
Good.
Yeah. He needed that moment. So, folks, we talk about it on the show all the time. I call it a buddy check. Ken tells me I shouldn't call it a buddy check because buddy sounds too male. There are female service members that need this also. But I think we as service members understand when I say buddy check what we mean.
Totally.
Go reach out to somebody. Go reach out to another service member and listen to me. And I think, Augie, I want to hear your thoughts on this.
Sure.
It doesn't matter who it is, why you're doing it. They will appreciate the text message that says, "How you doing?"
Totally. And dude, I think what you're bringing up is a very unique aspect of the network of veterans around this country, because and I think this is one of the reasons why it's very difficult to transition back into civilian life, is because when you're a service member, figuratively speaking, people have your back, but literally speaking, they really do have your back. In a combat zone, you pull into we might call it a coil, or you can call it a perimeter, where you have weapons facing in every single direction. There's security everywhere. You know that the guy behind you is literally watching your back,
Absolutely.
so that nobody can come up on you and slit your throat or kill you. And when you get to civilian life, it really feels like a free-for-all. I remember going, even when I would go swing dancing, like, when people ask you how you're doing, they're not expecting that you're going to say not so good.
100%.
You know what I mean? But when I go to people, whether it's a vet or anyone else, and I say, "How are you doing?" I really am asking that.
It has a
And
value.
it has a value. And if you're not doing so good and you tell me you're not doing so good, I want to know, hey, like, what's going on? Is there anything I can do to help? And I don't think a lot of people have that mindset, but the veterans community really, really does. Like, I I I I can't explain it, but that's something that is very special.
I agree with you. And if it wasn't for, and I really, I have to give, I talk about my best friend Ken all the time, but him making sure that I understood that, women go through this also was
Mm-hmm.
important. And him making sure that I understood when I said buddy check that I have to count them in. And I want to say that again, because I think a lot of times we think we talked when we opened it up, we talked about, female are now in combat arms. We just had the
Mm-hmm.
first ever commanding officer of a Marine female combat unit
Mm-hmm.
just happened within the last couple of weeks. So that
Totally.
entire value, you have, look, folks, it is not just man, especially in the Marine Corps. I can't tell you how many times we used to say, our contract doesn't say female Marine or male Marine, it says Marine.
Right.
And I promise you that those female Marines that are out there, from our standpoint, and I know I'm using female Marines, but female service members in general, but they have pulled that trigger. They
Totally.
have been in that. They have saved the lives of many a male Marine or male service member. So please keep them in mind and don't discount them in any way, shape, or form.
Totally.
And my best friend Ken was the one that made sure I remembered that when I was having these conversations, because I even kind of had forgotten about it because of the age of the Marine Corps that I came through. Like I said at the beginning, they didn't go to combat training. They didn't run more than a mile and a half. It took, time within my service time. So that
Right.
was a very valuable, and it was a lesson I even had to learn, thinking that I had the shit figured out.
Sure. Yeah. That's the
I mean,
luxury of
Augie,
you. You think you have everything figured out. Nope.
Augie, brother, I can't say anything, but and I know we were going to get into, we'll have to do swing dancing again. We'll just have to get into swing dance
Yeah.
more, because we got very Marine Corps, and I kind of had a feeling we would. We kind of do that,
Yeah. It's all good.
And I got to thank Jessica. She sent me a message while we were talking that she had to
She's
go
a
put the
great
kids to bed,
person.
but
Yeah.
is she as good a swing dancer as she claims? I got to ask that. Let's put that
She's
out there.
good. Yeah. No, I've done competitions with her.
Like as
Yeah.
your partner, right?
Uh-huh. Yeah. Yep.
So she's competition ready.
I don't know if she's been training lately, but
I'm saying in general, at one point she was competition ready.
Oh, totally. Yeah, no. And her and Brad are amazing dancers. Like they love and really know how to do the LA style of Lindy and swing dancing. And they are true jitterbugs.
Yeah, I got. So right now, currently my left knee is in a brace that I can't move it. I tore my ACL, MCL, and meniscus, and I already had two left feet to start with. So I'm not that guy to start with. But brother, we're gonna have to get into it. Send me that picture that you were talking about.
Yeah.
I will definitely post that, because I think that, especially if you were in camis, because that's even better. That you were swing dancing in camis, that's even better in my book.
Yeah, you're gonna love that. And boots.
Oh, boots and you swing dancing. Yep. That's even better. All I can think of is like, here's this like 03 hump a lot standing there teaching a bunch of pogues who are like, so I got some extra time around, Garrison. I'm in the green zone.
Contractors and
Oh God, that's so great. Was it? Oh, contractors on top. Some Blackwater guy trying to learn how to swing dance. Oh, it's so great. So my wife wants me to learn how to swing dance.
Totally,
she's into it. Right? Oh God, it's so great.
Can I do one thing
Please.
before we
100%. Whatever you want to do.
So I just want to send a big thank you out to everyone that helped me through that tough period. Some of them are like Rusty Frank, who sent me a DVD of people saying, Augie, we miss you, and Augie, we can't wait till you come home so we can dance with you. That was incredibly kind. My friend Mary, who's no longer with us, who sent me music that I could listen to while I was out there. My parents, and everyone in the dance community and in my personal life that has, and my twin brother Mark, who was really there for me, who sent letters, who got me out of my comfort zone to move to Europe, and who gave me encouragement, and who were just always there for me. I thank all of you deeply from the bottom of my heart, and also to all the guys that I personally served with, Toe Platoon, 1st Recon Battalion, for, making sure that I came home in one piece, and for showing me how to be a warrior, and just being a great and positive example in life for me.
Brother, I don't have anything else to say. You've kind of said it all. We have a tradition on the show. The guest always gets the last word. Please do not log off after this is over. I just want to talk to you for a couple of minutes.
Sure.
Again, folks, real quick. I almost feel like I shouldn't do this, but I got to do it. If you're enjoying this, please like, share, send to everyone. Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch. If you've got something that you're supporting, you've got other support groups for service members, you've got a vet group, you've got an organization that you're putting out there, please send us a message, theabovethebarpodcast.com. Augie, thank you, brother, man. From Marine to Marine.
Thank you.
I can't say it enough. And don't log after. We got to talk for a moment. But as I always say, the guest gets the last word. What's the last word, brother?
Semper Fi.
Be sure to push your stool in.
This has been an Earplug Podcast presentation. Found on earplugpodcast.com, iTunes, SoundCloud, and wherever your favorite podcasts are found.